Texas back.
But I plan to make well over 1,000. I don't plan on going to sleep tonight.
Probably go 71-68. UNC versus Kansas.
Why did that get bring up? Why are we doing that?
Wusui, Pig Sui.
I would disagree with the hot hand part because, like I said, Longhorns won 19 of their last 20.
I hope it's not close. I hope Texas gets destroyed.
I think because I would have San Diego State in this matchup, I have to go UConn.
Texas friends, feel free to DM me on the Twitter, which you don't know, and that's for good reason.
Hey y'all, my name is Riley Dutcher, and I'm smarter than all you guys because I won Outsiders Opinion's second bracket challenge. Now back to Austin and Kevin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another... this is actually March Madness Opinions of the Week. Make sure to check out our men's basketball predictions in our Big Six. Once again, it is the March Madness. We got the line of March Madness expert Kevin, and then, of course, Austin. We'll say he is the center of the group, just like his favorite player on that retired from the Bruins. But I feel fine about brackets. Austin, we were just talking about a theory. I think sometimes if you don't know anything about basketball, you have a better chance of winning the bracket. How is that? However, it was not the case last year, but now I turn it over to you. I toss the puck over to you, Austin.
Yeah, that should have been disproven last year when Jake obviously made the great prediction that UConn would win, and they did. And, I obviously picked the San Diego State would go really far, and they did. But, Jake, how do you determine your champion?
I determine my champion through a myriad of things, a myriad of options. So, first, I look at depth. I look at teams who can plug guys in who can get a job done. Think about UConn last year. They had 8 or 9 reliable guys they could put on offense. Think about Kansas the year before. They had 7 or 8 guys who they could throw in there to make good plays. Think about Baylor the year before. That was one of the greatest championship teams we've ever seen. And so depth is key. Having a lot of guys, at least 7 guys who can get out there and get you a bucket if you need. The other necessity is rebounding. Rebounding is crucial and to getting second opportunities to win, to score baskets, and that will bring you wins. Not lastly, but one of the final things you need is at least a half decent defense. Like, you got to be able to make stops and you got to be able to have hustle plays. You need guys who have experience. So I guess you got to have not just freshmen on your team, but these guys with experience are also going to pour their hearts out on the court and make big plays. And so you need half decent defense, you need rebounding, and you need depth. Those are the 3 things I look at when I pick a champion. And there's usually only 2 or 3 teams that fit that description going into a March Madness bracket.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I know a lot of teams that people like this year, like Purdue, that gets a lot of traction. People don't actually watch that team, or they don't watch who they play against. So what do you look at when you're watching a team schematically that determines that you like this team going far in a tournament?
Schematically, I look at teams who are able to make adjustments on defense, especially at the halftime point. If you're switching and it's not working, make an adjustment. I like teams who know when to trap and when not to trap on defense, who know when to double team and know when to put pressure on ball, better on ball pressure. I also love it when teams press at certain moments. And so being able to mix it up on defensive schematics, as well as teams that can move the ball on offense, off-ball screens, backdoor cuts, making the right cuts in the right moments, and just being able to find the open guy and make the extra pass. When you're watching basketball, sometimes it might necessarily, like, let's say you're watching a team and they make the extra pass, but they miss the shot. I'm not worried about that because that shot will fall in another instance. But the fact that they made the extra pass knows that they know where the open shot is. And so when you're watching a game, just because they lose a game doesn't mean they're not going to do it, because UConn lost to Marquette in the Big East tournament final last year and went on to win March Madness tournament in general and the big dance. And so I would definitely look for teams that know how to make adjustments on defense, as well as being able to switch the tempo on offense and find open guys.
What are some teams that are very popular picks besides Purdue that you don't think fit your baseline for who contenders truly are?
UNC doesn't have depth. they have a phenomenal starting five, but once that can get them one win. But if they're all not playing well, um, then their lack of depth starts to creep in against them. Um, I also think Arizona, Arizona could rebound. Arizona has depth, but they don't play amazing defense, and they don't have a lot of very good interior defense. Even though they have a 7-footer, he's not that amazing of an interior presence on defense. Uh, and also, I see them they're not able to make adjustments. I haven't seen them make adjustments. They kind of stick to the same formulas, and it can lead them to lose games sometimes. Um, I guess another top contender is Marquette. They also don't have depth, and um, while they do have some veteran leadership, they don't have the depth. They don't have the guys to do it, um, and their defense is kind of lackluster. So I think that those are a couple teams to be wary of. I'm not saying they're not going to do it, but they need to be looked into a little bit more. And I don't think they're going to do it.
Kevin, you're not much of a absolute expert, but how do you make your bracket?
That's funny. Well, this year I'm gonna listen to y'all. I'm not gonna pick Purdue. I'm trying to think of some sneaky teams. Defense. I can't remember what team I was thinking of. I've heard some people talk about Nebraska. Not sure how y'all feel about that. My sneaky team is maybe Baylor. I'm thinking about coaching. However, they probably won't go far because of freshmen. How do you think about that?
Jake?
Oh, I like the Baylor pick, Kevin. I think they're really turning it on right now, and I think they got a shot. I like Baylor to maybe go to the Final Four. I like teams like Texas Tech to make a run. I like Iowa State. A lot of those Big 12 teams could do very well. I like BYU. I think this could be a BYU or not BYU, a Big 12 heavy March Madness this year. But there are also teams like weirdly Seton Hall can be sneaky, but that's not going to get them a tournament win. They could bust brackets. New Mexico can bust brackets. Colorado State can bust brackets. San Diego State's going to bust brackets again. So I guess Baylor's not a bad pick, Kev, and not picking Purdue's a solid choice.
Thank you,
Jake.
awesome.
When people were, well, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna turn it back over to you. What do you? Jake likes to watch the games, and I know you watch the games. What about some stats that stick out to you?
Jake is not as involved in advanced stats as I am. I like looking at SRS for teams, which is a simple rating system done by Basketball Reference and KenPom and all those. I like looking at offensive and defensive ratings, and they're comparing those to past years. I think that's very important, especially when in the context of that no one in the past, I think it's since 2000, no one in the past or no one has been outside the top 25 in offensive efficiency on KenPom and outside the top 40 in defensive efficiency in KenPom. So like those attributes being like the determinant of who's going to win most likely, I think is very important.
Yeah, those are legitimate. I like the adjusted offensive and defensive efficiencies are legitimate. They do that. KenPom rule is weirdly accurate, and I'm not gonna lie, I did use that when picking UConn last year because they did fit the description.
Yeah.
But they were not the one that fit the description that everyone else thought because they weren't at the top of the list. But they did fit the categories, and that's why I was more comfortable picking them. And that's why right now, even though I've been saying I love Iowa State, their offensive efficiency is not there, and that's why I'm a little worried about Iowa State this year. And so it is legitimate. It is legit. And so those advanced stats are the ones that I do pay attention to, and they work.
Yeah, I would say don't get tied down to them because one of the stats is they're out inside the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. Since 2000, every team has been in the top 12 of the Week 6 poll. That does not matter, guys. Like that it cannot be a determinant of a champion. You can't tell me that the 13th ranked team in Week 6, who may eventually become a top a 1 seed by the end of the year isn't a contender. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I would say like those stats you see where teams that have only meet this criteria can win it. I don't necessarily think you should always trust those because those are just stuff that happens sometimes. They're not necessarily determinant of a future champion.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Austin's definitely right about that. Don't live and die by Ken Palm. Watch the teams, get to know the teams, but also, well, that's what I meant. Don't be married to Ken Palm. Watch the teams, get to know the teams, and you'll be set up.
Jake,
Yeah, or my bad. I was going back. So I think I'm a big vibes guy. Back to your question, Austin. You're a little bit more of the numbers. Jake is more watching. Now I'll pass this over to your question.
Yeah, so Jake, a lot of teams or a lot of people when they make their brackets have points, extra points for predicting upsets. How do you predict upsets when making a bracket?
The same way I predicted champion. I look at teams. It's kind of different. Because upsets are who's hot right now. If you get a 9 seed that's coming off of a phenomenal conference run, you need to pay a little bit of attention. The only time recently where I saw that kind of people get a little too hyped for it was Georgetown a couple years ago when they won the Big East weirdly, and everyone thought they were going to be the 12-5 upset, but Colorado completely smoked them. But I think what people didn't realize is that Colorado had just made their own run in the Pac-12. Oregon State made a run in the Pac-12, and I watched that Pac-12 tournament, saw the way they were playing, and was like, oh, shoot, they're going to go. They're going to do something. And then they were the 12-5 upset, and they ended up making the Elite Eight. And so major upsets are about who's hot, who's not. And also who's got a guy that can, like, let's say it's really matchup based because let's say last year, Virginia versus Furman. Me and Austin loved Jalen Slauson, and Jalen Slauson was a guy, and we knew that going in, and we knew that he could carry a team to a win against a team that could struggle against interior offense. And while Virginia is a phenomenal defensive team up and down the board, and they did need a last-second miracle to win, they did it, and they kept it close.
That's all that matters with upsets. I will say is you just got to keep it close, and then anything in the last 2 minutes, you're within a possession. Anything can happen in the last 2 minutes, and that's exactly what happened there. Who are your favorites? Oh, you go.
As I was saying, I was just reiterating. So if you have a guy that can get you a win, as well as if you're really, really hot right now and multiple guys are shooting the ball well, and playing good defense, if they just look like they're, a complete team, they can very easily pull off an upset.
Yeah, so who are your dark horses for a deep tournament run? Maybe not a contender for an actual championship, but could make an Elite Eight appearance, Final Four appearance, if given the right route.
Some dark horses this year, if given a good route, a lot of those Mountain West teams, I'm not going to lie. I mean, New Mexico, Utah State, San Diego State is oddly a dark horse again. I think Nevada could do it. I mean, a lot of those Mountain West teams are sneaky. I definitely think teams like, weirdly, I don't like South Carolina very much, but they can have their 5 guys can get them to a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8. Texas Tech is definitely a dark horse this year. And BYU and St. Mary's are all dark horses this year.
Who is someone you think is getting way too overhyped as a dark horse?
Teams that are getting hyped as a dark horse
that you think are overhyped, that you think that this is just a misnomer, you shouldn't really go for it?
Maybe South Florida. I like South Florida right now. I mean, I did like South Florida, but I do think they're getting a little lucky right now. They're just playing at an amazing level, and I think they need to be studied a little bit more. I think they're getting a little bit too much hype, especially them being they were in the top 25 multiple days in a row or multiple weeks in a row. And so I think they need to be, quieted down a little bit. That's the main one, I guess. And
Okay.
of course, any of those Big Ten teams, like Nebraska or Michigan State or Northwestern, if they make it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense because I do feel like that entire conference is getting a lot of love at the moment when I don't necessarily know if they should be. Kevin, do you have any other important questions?
What is something we haven't asked you about that you want people to know when making their brackets?
In the end, it's all gonna be madness. Like, none of us are ever gonna get anything completely right. We may have opinions that are incredibly valid and legitimate, and it just doesn't matter because of some craziness, because that's the way March is. That's what's happening right now at the conference tournaments. And so just don't be hard on yourself. Like, do it for fun. Be excited that basketball, some of the best basketball you're ever going to watch, is happening, and just embrace it. That's what I do every year. I mean, of course, it's always nice to be right, and it sucks to be wrong, and I get annoyed. But in the end, I love the thrill of just the tournament. It's truly wonderful what emotions it can bring out, and so just have the most fun you can with it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good disclaimer, and I'll toss the final thoughts and the ending to Austin once again.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. March is right around the corner. Please join our bracket challenge when it comes up, and hope you guys can beat us. We'll see.